Well, welcome everybody to this talk given by the Friedensburg Biblical Institute on the foundations of Christian technology. Again, thanks to Matt for setting up the Friedensburg Biblical Institute, which is ironically acronymed FBI, which is not a good organization. It's not a good thing to be a part of, but I'm thankful that Matt has asked me, or has given me two opportunities to teach on subjects that I think are very important for the church to understand today. And my former talk was about the character and nature of homosexuality. This time I'm going to address what I also believe an important issue, and it's called the foundations of Christian technology. I am going to make a radical claim, and I would say that the nature of technology demands that all technology is Christian. I'm going to explore two aspects of technology that I believe the Bible points to for us to help us understand it. And after we explore the two sides of technology, that I want to address our view towards it in its practicality and how we apply it in everyday life and in society. Now, the Oxford Dictionary defines technology as the application of scientific knowledge for practical purposes, especially in industry. I don't, humbly say, I don't think that is a sufficient definition. I humbly say that. I'm not going to be like, oh, it's got to be something else, but looking at the Bible and then looking at technology and then reading this definition, it is short of the full encapsulated definition of technology. First, I'm going to tell a story about Springfield. Now, Springfield, in the town of Springfield, every year the inhabitants gather together in front of a huge dispenser. Every year the dispenser magically releases a new technology to the town of Springfield. And every year the town of Springfield uses this new technology to build their society. As time went on, the character of the town began to degrade, but the technology began to increase. And the people of the town, instead of using this technology to build and to help and administer and to bless and to have an easier life, they started to use this technology in a perverted way, and they started to use it to attack. They started to use it to pervert. They started to use it to destroy. And the attitude of the people in that town, especially the older ones who remember the good days, started to make the argument that in the town of Springfield, the technology was the fault for all of our problems because people were starting to use this technology to destroy everything else. And they said, if we just get rid of the technology, the problem is the technology. We got to get rid of the technology. And if we get rid of the technology, then everything will be fine again. But what they didn't realize was not the technology in the town of Springfield that was the problem. It was the character of the people using the technology. Okay? This cell phone is an example. Okay? This is a massive tool in the hands of the children of God. A massive tool. But in the wrong hands, it becomes a tool for perversion and a tool for destruction. It is not the problem of the cell phone's nature and character that causes perversion. It is the character and nature of the person who holds the cell phone, right? We're all Second Amendment people here, right? Guns don't kill people. People kill people, all right? And if we buy the lie that if we just get rid of all the technology, then we won't have kids watching TikTok all day. The problem is not kids watching TikTok all day. That's not the problem. The problem is the importance that children place on watching TikTok all day. That's the problem. It's the maturity of the person using the phone that is the issue. It's not the presence of TikTok in culture. So I'm going to explore the first aspect of technology that the Bible, I believe, points to. First is the moral character of technology. In Genesis 1:31, it says, "And God saw all that he had made, and behold, it was very good. And a couple chapters later, or a chapter later, we see Cain rising up against his brother Abel and killing him. And, it's just like the misunderstanding that the fruit was an apple. We always refer to the fruit as an apple. When Adam and Eve ate the apple, it wasn't an apple, it was just as the fruit. And for some reason, in the same vein, we conclude that Cain killed Abel with a rock. Okay, whatever. I'm gonna go with that. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. Maybe he just used his bare hands. Are we to conclude after Cain kills Abel that all rocks are inherently evil? Maybe he used his bare hands. Do we now outlaw hands? It's a problem that everyone has hands, because there was only a couple people on earth at that time. Is the conclusion that everyone's got to walk around in handcuffs. Had nothing to do with what Cain had used, and it still didn't change the fact, even if he did make a tool to kill Abel, it doesn't change the fact that God saw everything he had made and it was very good. If you combine something that's very good into something else, it doesn't make it evil. It still makes it very good. And that's what technology is. It's the combination of building blocks for tools for dominion. That's what it is. So we cannot corrupt that which God saw and it was very good in its ontology. We can corrupt it in its purpose, right? If I make a tool for torture, that's not a good thing. But if I take that tool for torture and I use it for medical purposes to save lives, now it's a good thing. Technology has a moral character assigned to it, and if it was up to Satan, there would be no technology at all. That's what I believe. Satan's not iffy on technology. He's not like, whatever. Whether you have stuff or not makes a difference to me. I'm going to pervert you anyway. I don't believe that. Job 1, 9 through 11. Satan answered Yahweh and said, "Does Job fear God without cause? Have you not made a hedge about him and his house and all that he has on every side? You have blessed the work of his hands, and his possessions have increased in the land. But send forth your hand and touch all that he has, and he will surely curse you to your face." And so, God gave him over to Satan, and Satan destroyed all that he had. Destroyed all the things he had built, destroyed all of his technology. And that's what happens to technology when Satan's in control of it. Satan doesn't increase your possessions. He doesn't bless. He doesn't give. He only takes. He doesn't know how to give. I'm not even sure if Satan even knows how to make technology. I suspect he does. But technology is from the Lord. Technology is a blessing because it helps us take dominion. And Satan's not iffy on that. He hates the fact that we're taking dominion. He hates this church. He hates these four walls. We're surrounded by technology. There was a time there was no church here. There was a time you were not here, sitting in your very comfortable pew. You're sitting on technology right now. You're experiencing the benefits of air conditioning. The light coming into the room is technology. Do you think Satan's happy about that? You think he's like, whatever? No, he's not. If you take a look at cultures where Satan is the God, where you completely reject God and Christ and you embrace Satan, one of the first things to go is your technology. Those tribes, unreached people groups, do you think they have variety in clothing? Do you think they have styles? They don't. How about their music? Their music suffers. They have almost no presence of music in their culture. I'm going to get more into that later. But when Satan becomes your God, he destroys everything you have, and that includes your technology. He does not increase your technology. He is against technology because God has called all technology good. Because when you combine things that are very good, it doesn't make it very bad. It's still, the ontological nature of it remains good. And Satan is not on the fence about that. Isaiah 58:12. Those from among you will rebuild the ancient waste places. You will raise up the foundations of past generations upon generation, and you will be called the repairer of the breach, the restorer of the paths for one to inhabit. Part of the nature of being a Christian is to be a builder. I believe that in the kingdom of God, you're either a builder or a warrior. You're either building something or you're fighting against evil in some way, shape, or form. Part of the definition of being a Christian, according to Isaiah, is a builder or a rebuilder. We're always reforming, right? We're reformed here. This is St. John's Reformed Church, Semper Reformanda. You're always reforming. You're always taking something that was used for something bad and you're repurposing it and using it for something good. A cathedral, for example, was probably built to worship Mary. But we don't destroy the cathedral, we reform it, right? We tear down the false images. We perform iconoclasm, and we tear down the false images, the false statues, and the graven images, and we set up the appropriate worship of Christ. But we don't just destroy the whole place, do we? Those from among you will rebuild the ancient waste places, and you will raise up the foundations of past generations upon generation. And you will be called the repairer of the breach, the restorer of the past, for one to inhabit. Part of your character and nature as a Christian is to be a builder. And you cannot do that without technology. Can't do it. Tools are a vital part of our building. The most vital tool that you probably use in your life, and this may sound basic, but I believe we need to remember this, but there was a time when a codex did not exist. And then someone made a codex. You know how much damage has been caused by the codex in the world? Mein Kampf, right? The Communist Manifesto, books on witchcraft and wizardry, you know? But are we willing to say, well, I wish those never existed, because if they never existed, we never have the Bible, then would we? The presence of the Bible in the form of a codex has outdone more damage than all of the bad books in the world combined. The net effect of technology, I believe, is always positive, because the second nature of technology is its purposeful nature. Genesis 1, again, God blessed them and said to them, "Be fruitful, multiply, and fill the earth, and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the sky, and over every living thing that creeps on the earth." That's our purpose in life. When God set up man and woman, and he turned them around, he said, okay, here's the garden, okay, take care of it, and they turned around and said, here's the whole world, okay? Here's the whole world. Here's your marching orders. Be fruitful and multiply. Fill the earth and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the sky, and over every living thing that creeps on the earth, okay? He did not say, and I don't want to bash this too much, but he did not say, worship me and enjoy me forever. He didn't say that. He could have said that, but he didn't. He said, your purpose, as far as it relates to the physical aspect of the world, is to take dominion over the world. And every piece of technology that gets invented helps us in that endeavor. That's also the foundation for economics. I mean, I think that verse is the foundation for all of science. All sciences, I'll say. If you can name a science, I believe that verse is the foundation for it. Because not only does it give us an imperative, but it says that imperative is good. It's a good imperative. God only gives good imperatives. So now, the taking of dominion through all the sciences becomes good. Whereas if you get rid of the Bible, you don't know if it's good or bad. Maybe it's bad. I don't know. Maybe someone's going to invent a bomb that's going to destroy the whole world. Maybe we should stop technology right now. Because maybe the tide's going to turn and all this positive things that are happening, worse things are going to happen. Now we're going to destroy every human on the planet. Without the Bible saying take dominion, you don't know if technology is good or bad. But as long as we understand technology through the lens of dominion, the conclusion is technology is good. The net effect will be positive. The children watching TikTok today, eventually TikToks or platforms like it, the net effect will be good. The foundation for economics in that statement, many people have talked about what is the nature of economic growth? How is economics furthered in the world? How do you build economics? And a lot of people, most of you are familiar with the supply and demand aspect. If there's a demand, then there will be a supply. And I've heard someone speculate that it goes a little further than that. He said that the foundation for economics is sacrifice. Robinson Crusoe on the island, he used as an example. He said, if you want economics to grow, if you want to have food that's going to last you, if you want to have an abundance, right? Because if you're on an island, you got to have an abundance. You can't be living day to day, or else you won't survive. You got to have an abundance. You got to start producing. He said that for Robinson Crusoe, to produce an abundance, he had to start sacrificing. He had to start weighing, okay, if I want to have goats, I got to sacrifice the time that I would be using to gather food to go and grab the goats, because there's goats on the island. And all that time I use to get those goats, I'm losing valuable time looking for food. And for example, he said, well, I got to build a house. Well, all the time I'm out of the sun and being comfortable, I've got to sacrifice that to start building a house in the hot weather and in the rain and in the elements. And I'm sacrificing my comfort so that I can have more comfort later. I've got to sacrifice. That was an interesting point made by the man who said that, but I don't believe he went far enough. Because back in Genesis it says, be fruitful, multiply, and fill the earth and subdue it. God gave us a responsibility. That is the foundation for economics. Because if Robinson Crusoe said, someone else has got to do this for me, and if he said, if I don't do it, then nobody's going to do it. First off, he had a responsibility. He felt a responsibility to survive. And not only that, but to thrive. He had a responsibility. And if he said to himself, it's not my responsibility, I'm just going to pray to some pagan god, he's going to do it for me, or I'm just going to die because I'm so sad, he would have never sacrificed. His desire for sacrifice came from his idea of, I have to do this. I must do this. I can't wait for someone else to do it. So the nature of economic growth, therefore, is not sacrifice, and it's not supply and demand. It's a responsibility of the person looking out into the world to say, I must do this. God has given me a responsibility, and I cannot wait for someone else to do it. The nature of economic growth is responsibility. Now, in verse 16 of Genesis 3, God said, I will greatly multiply your pain and conception. In pain you will bear children. Your desire will be for your husband, and he will rule over you. And to the man he said, cursed is the ground because of you. In pain you will eat of it all the days of your life. Both thorns and thistles that shall grow for you, and you will eat the plants of the field. By the sweat of your face you will eat bread till you return to the ground, because from it you were taken, for you are dust, and to dust you shall return. I think I've said this before, and my hope is that you're familiar with this argument, but I will greatly multiply, God said, I will greatly multiply your pain in conception. In pain you will bear children. As time goes on, is it getting more or less painful to have children? Is it getting easier or harder? Is infant mortality as a result of botched births, is that going up or is it going down? If it is going down, is that a result of Satan? Does Satan want to see more people on the earth? Do we go to the Bible for overpopulation theory? Is Satan happy after he spent all that time and cleverness trying to curse mankind that there are women out there who have an epidural? Do you think he's like, whatever? Technology is used to reverse the curse. That is a blessing from God. Was Christ not a tekton, which means builder? I'm not even sure if, most people are saying we don't even know if he was a carpenter. That's the common conception that he was a carpenter. Tekton usually refers to a carpenter, but it also refers to an artisan, which would be a specialist in his craft, or just a generic term for a construction worker, a builder. What a great description of what Christ did here on earth. Of course he would build. Of course he would be a builder and a contributor. That makes all the sense in the world. That's part of his character and nature, and the more Christianized a culture becomes, the more they build, just the way that it is. I'll give you an example of how that's true. The Americans back, I believe, is in the 18th century, or the 18th or 19th century, The Brits would build these boats. They would build these big, strong, magnificent boats. This is a Rushdoony story. And what happened was, as they built these boats, they wanted these boats to last from generation to generation. And they would make them strong and sturdy. And they would laugh at the Americans and say, look at that flimsy boat you have. You're not even going to be able to give that to your kids. But the Americans would be like, not so fast, bruv. Not so fast. Because by the time this boat is destroyed, because it's been used so much, there's going to be new technology and there's going to be a better boat out there. So, while you're building a boat that's going to last from generation to generation, you're essentially tying your children to the poor technology of today. Whereas, we're going to use our boats, we're going to give our kids an opportunity so that my child's boat is going to be better than mine. And so for me to make it to last from generation to generation, it doesn't make sense because the technology changes so fast that now it's becoming a burden if I hand this boat off to my children. And that is a result of a Christian society, that the technology just increases. Look at the 19th century in America. It was like invention everywhere. I mean, and even if you, in some ways, it surpasses the invention of today. If you look at the mechanics of those people, you ever watch Pawn Stars? You ever watch Antiques Roadshow, and someone brings out this mechanical thing from the 19th century that to perform this bizarre purpose, this specialized purpose, and it's just a marvel. It is an incredible marvel. But with regulation and legislation around technology, unfortunately, it does not encourage the development of it. It punishes it, and it freezes it at that time. To the man he said, cursed is the ground because of you, and pain you will eat of it all the days of your life. Both thorns and thistles it shall grow for you, and you will eat the plants of the field. By the sweat of your face you will eat bread till you return. When was the last time by the sweat of your face you ate bread? Anyone? Anyone here? When was the last time thorns were a real problem in your life? Not just that time you went out to the garden to do some weeding. I'm talking about in your life. Thorns were a problem. When was the last time that you had to deal with thorns? Do you think Satan's happy about that? Do you think he's like, whatever? He worked so hard to get man cursed, and now we don't even think about this curse anymore, do we? You ever hear the term first world problems? What a blessing that is to have a first world problem. Oh, my GPS took me through the ghetto. What a great problem to have. Thank you, Lord, for that problem. Or how about this? I'm on my cruise control, and the guy ahead of me on the highway is 1 mile an hour slower. Now I have to hit the brakes and I have to reset my cruise control. What a great problem to have. That's a sign of a Christian nation, when your problems become so insignificant that they're foolish to even voice them. That is a great problem to have. First world problems, I mean, just the phrase, to me, says that technology is a Christian thing. Because Christianity is the foundation for dealing with all of problems in life. And when the problems become less and less so that you can't even mention it to somebody who's from a third world country without being embarrassed, that's a good thing. I often hear people complain about excess in our restaurants, right? You go to the back of a restaurant and there's my man out there with a whole tub of, ziti, and he's throwing it out because it's about to rot, or just, no storage left in the walk-in, or just, we don't have any room for it, or it's about to go bad, or maybe we changed the menu and we're not serving this anymore. And I see so many Christians complain about that. They say, oh my goodness, look at this. Oh, this is so wasteful. Oh, we're so wasteful. And they reverse the solution. And they want us to be like, they want us as a society to use everything that we have, rather than looking at the other countries and saying, I desire a day for them to become wasteful just as we are. I want that country over there to become wasteful of their excess resources. I want them to produce so much that they don't need it. This is a blessing from God. It is not a curse. I want to live in the country where we throw away food and where food is no longer a necessity. It is a hobby for us. It's a hobby. Yeah, I know you're going to get food, but what kind of food are you going to get? We have conversations about what our favorite food is, like we're talking about what our favorite baseball team is. That's a wonderful thing. That's a wonderful thing, because now we can focus on real problems. If I'm hungry all the time, as Young Mi Park, I believe is her name is, the escapee from North Korea, she couldn't focus on dominion at all. That didn't even enter her mind because she was always looking for food, always. A starving person is an unproductive person. They can't even focus on taking dominion and building because they're always looking for food. And when your culture becomes like that, you stop taking dominion. But we have full bellies, we have warm houses, we have cars with air conditioning. It is easier for us to take dominion. Earl's out there in his tractor, listening to Johnny Cash in his air-conditioned tractor, running over those thorns, not even giving them a second thought. You see, some of them have lasers now. Do you see that? Some of the tractors now, they pull something behind them. They shoot down lasers and they kill all the weeds. And now they're getting rid of pesticides because pesticides are historically they're dangerous, and people don't want to eat something that's been sprayed with pesticide. So now they're destroying the weeds with lasers, laser beams. Is that not a good thing? Is Satan happy about that? That it's getting easier and easier for us to take dominion, for us to fulfill our divine purpose that God has given us, to be fruitful and multiply. It's becoming easier as time goes forward. That's a good thing. The following of Christianity through time and history is the following of technology, because it gives you a transcendental purpose for technology that no other religion provides. No other religion provides it, a transcendental purpose. They always provide a subjective purpose. If you want to, you can. If not, whatever. But we have a divine purpose to take dominion, and that is the foundation for Christian technology. Now, the two-sided nature of technology given by the Bible, the moral aspect and the purposeful aspect, not only is it good, but it's our actual purpose. And not only is it our purpose, but that purpose is good. This results in the celebration of technology. I want to focus on that phrase, the celebration of technology. There are many cultures, if you think about Egypt, their mathematics were incredible. Their mathematics were insane. How did they build those pyramids so precisely? How did they do it? By moving all those huge blocks. They obviously had access to some technology that we probably don't have access to. They knew something we didn't. But technology was not celebrated in Egypt. The mathematics, the secret hidden knowledge, that was relegated to a class of people. And for the rest of the poor Slavs in those countries, they weren't even worth a second look to even teach this stuff to. In other words, technology wasn't celebrated. It was relegated. In The Gift of the Jews, Thomas Cahill makes the point that he said, in the ancient world, this is something that we're so divorced from this, we're so far away from it, we don't understand it anymore. But in the ancient world, the idea of something being new was something that was foreign and bad. Like, was his example, that if you went to, say, a pub in the ancient world, an inn or tavern, or sometimes, if I use the really old term, I call it an ordinary. If you were to go there, and the bartender reached down underneath the bar and pulled up a new drink, he said, "Hey," rang the bell, everyone, "New drink, I got a new drink, come and try it." Now in America, we'd be like, "Oh, cool, new, I like it, let me go try it." But in the ancient world, people would avoid it like the plague. They didn't like new things, because that means you're getting outside of the wheel of time. Because the ancient world, they viewed time circularly. They viewed time as a circle. They didn't view it linearly. They did not view time as with a beginning and an end. They viewed it as a circle. And as a result, their technology suffered greatly. It wasn't celebrated. It was relegated to a specific group of people. And those people were allowed to experiment. But in the culture, no one was really encouraged or invited to take that technology and use it in everyday life. Because new meant bad. Because if you were to introduce something new, now the circle is broken, and we're off the cycle, and now you've ruined everything. We got to keep the circle going, the circle of life. That was the attitude. I'm not making it up. That was the attitude. They didn't like new things. But we, as Americans, or I would say Westerners, because Easterners many Easterners still view time circularly. But the benefit of viewing time linearly is that there's a beginning and a middle and an end, and they can all be compared with each other. Whereas a circle, it doesn't matter what part you're on the same curve. Whether you're on the top or the bottom, left or the right, doesn't matter, you're on the same curve. It's all part of the same thing. Yin and yang. Balance. But if you're viewing time linearly, you can compare the beginning to the end and say, which one's better? That's the benefit. And when an entire culture embraces that idea, technology flourishes. But if an entire culture views technology in the lens of the circle of life, technology suffers. It's just the way that it is. Cahill goes even further. He says, we dream Jewish dreams and hope Jewish hopes. Most of our best words, in fact, these are the words that he attributes to the Hebrew religion. New, adventure, surprise, unique, individual, person, vocation, time, history, future, freedom, progress, spirit, faith, hope, and justice. Those are all concepts introduced by the Bible. All of them. Without the Bible, we don't have those concepts. Two other books make that point. One is called How Christianity Changed the World by Alvin Schmidt. Basically, if Christ was never resurrected, we'd all be dead by now. And the other one is a book called Dominion by someone who was an atheist at the time named Tom Holland, no relation to the actor. He wrote a book called Dominion, talking about how even people like Richard Dawkins and Christopher Hitchens, these two superstar atheists, he said, these people are Christians. He basically called them Christians. Did you know that? He said, you're basically Christians. Because of the values you place on human life, the way that you think, you can't escape it. You can't escape Christian thought. You can't. Because the reason we got here is because people were thinking like Christians. And in the ancient times, those thoughts were so foreign. I'll give you another example. It was Basil and his brother, it was an A word. What was his name? It wasn't Athanasius, it was Ambrose? Oh, I forget his name. But there were two brothers, and one of them said, well, the Bible says we should get rid of slavery, so let's work towards that goal. But his brother, I think it was Basil, his brother said, I can't imagine a world without slavery. There's no way. I can't even think in terms without slavery being part of the culture. I can't even think that way. But now slavery throughout most of the world is gone. We have a different kind of slavery under statism. But the way that they understood slavery is viewed by and large as barbaric in our culture and time. This is the blessing and the benefit of Christian thought in their life, in your life. And if you think about it, even war, as horrible as war is becoming more humane. Has anyone ever seen the movie Braveheart? You guys seen the movie Braveheart? Okay. Now let me ask you this. Would you rather be sitting in a climate-controlled, for lack of a better term, porta potty with a computer screen in front of you, where you push a button and the missile goes down and option one, or option two, here's a huge sword. There's the enemy. Go chop him up to death. Which would you rather do? Would you rather fight through cyber terrorism or be in a chariot behind someone trying to shoot somebody's lights out? And when you find him, you got to chop him up to death. Even technology makes war more humane. Would you rather be back to that? Would you rather be back to the days where we went around our moms and just chopped everybody up to death with a sword? Can you imagine hacking somebody to death? It's barbaric. But now we have something called a rifle. And when you shoot the enemy, they're dead, and they don't even know it half the time. Music, for example, music in other cultures. You often encounter a very primitive form of music in other cultures. And you think, well, how did we get Johann Sebastian Bach? How did we get Mozart and Beethoven and Brahms? How did we get those guys? It's because in their culture, music was celebrated. It was encouraged by the people. Because think about this, in ancient cultures, there were mathematical geniuses walking around. Okay? There were mathematical geniuses walking around in the ancient culture. But since mathematics was not celebrated in that culture, the person who was a genius at math was viewed as somebody who was weird and was somebody who was different and someone who should be avoided. But if a mathematical genius is walking around in a culture that loves mathematics, he's set for life. He's going to get the scholarships. He's going to get the jobs because it's celebrated. It's good, viewed as good by the culture. Musical geniuses in the ancient world, viewed as weird. Maybe they had a demon, right? You guys know about that, right? I mean, most people nowadays, when they have twins, oh man, you're lucky. Twins, a lot of people want twins now. But David Livingstone, when he went out to Africa, twins, if you had twins, they'd take the twins outside and leave them to the elements and hope they both died. They got sad because twins were viewed as a demon coming into the world, and he was trying to imitate the person that he came into the world with, and you never knew which one was the demon and which one was your actual baby. So you killed them both. Twins weren't celebrated in culture, therefore they killed them. Twins are celebrated in this culture, for the most part, the exception of abortion. But isn't that the direction we're going? The more we get rid of God and Christ, the more our technology suffers. And you might say, well, our technology is increasing in this country. It kind of is and it kind of isn't, right? Because now when you show up to the job site, I'm sure many of you in here had to deal with this. When you show up to the job site, what the problem is that you're using this material, this strong, sturdy material. We don't want you to use that strong, sturdy material. We want you to use something that's green. We want you to use the green material. You think that's going to have a good end? You think that's going to end well? When technology becomes political? And now we can't use what we want to use? We have to use whatever the big shots say we have to use? You think that's going to end well? It's not going to end well. Our technology is already suffering right now. The more we get rid of Christ and His Word from our culture, the more technology suffers, the more difficult it is for us to perform our divine purpose, and that is be fruitful and multiply and take dominion over the earth. As Christians, we cannot be neutral towards that which God has called good. If you're developing technology, if you're involved in technology, use it for the purpose of dominion. But do not get in the way of other people who are using it for the purpose of dominion. Satan hates technology. He would rather see it destroyed, I believe. When he's in charge of it, when he's in charge of a culture, your technology goes south almost right away. Have we not seen? Because at one point we had great health care in this country. But when we had that foolish COVID nonsense going on, people started dying in the name of health care. People died in the name of health care. Our children are dying in the name of health care. Abortion is health care, is that not the phrase? By the grace of God, if the culture has a right attitude towards technology, it becomes easier for us to do what God has told us to do. If we perform justice and righteousness in our society, our technology will thrive. And we need to realize that technology is not a neutral thing. Either it's being used for bad purposes or it's being used for good purposes. It's never a neutral thing. By the grace of the Lord, we will take dominion in a more effective way. But even if we got to understand the purpose of technology. If we look at technology as something neutral, we'll never understand its purpose and our purpose here on earth. We must take dominion. We have a divine mandate. Technology is a good thing towards that mandate. It makes it easier for us to take dominion. It is a good thing. We must not get in the way of it. And as time goes on and as things become more scary about AI and as nuclear war and things like that, I think anything that makes a politician scared is a good thing. There, I said it. Anything that scares a politician is a good thing at this point. Our politicians are so corrupt that whatever they're afraid of, I love it. And whatever they love, I'm afraid of. That's how bad it is. But by the grace of the Lord, we will take dominion, and we can't do it without using technology. Thanks for your kind attention. That concludes my lesson on the foundations of Christian technology.